Morning. I'm Bill Bullock at the Texarkana Biblical Lifestyle Center, and it is time for us to draw inspiration from the Torah. So welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having some conversations that will build upon the great text of the Torah, give us insight on what happened and how we got where we are at the moment and what to do about it, and where we're going and what comes next. I entitled this little discussion, Leaving Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt, in other words, leaving the place of narrow, tightening straits and compressions and depressions, leaving that place, but where do we go from here? The Holy One has a plan, and we're going to find out a little bit about what that plan might be and why it's time. It's finally time. Parsha number 15, Bo. Exodus 10:1 through 13:16, I call it Leaving Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt. So, what's next on the agenda? If we have a certain understanding that the Creator of the universe has a plan, it is strategic, it is brilliant, and it has phases, and we are just processing as we read the Torah. We're just processing through the phases of that plan. That means there's always another stage awaiting for us. The things that we're used to, that we're accustomed to, give way to the things that have not yet been seen, not yet been understood, the things we have yet to experience in His kingdom, the things we have yet to learn how to do for Him, for His service, for the world, for the nations, for our neighbors, for even our enemies. Our calling is beyond Egypt, beyond Mitzrayim, beyond bondage, into the realm of actual service of the Holy One. So, what is it time to do? What is the season we're in? It is time to change the Abrahamic Covenant's program settings, its preferences, as it were, from private to public. We've been all caught up in our relationship with the Holy One, about His love for us, about learning how beautiful and good He is, and how wise He is, and how wonderful it is to know Him, and yet we have not yet made that knowledge public. We have not yet begun to spread that knowledge. It's time to change the Abrahamic Covenant's program sets, its preferences from private to public. The world needs to know, and this is going to be our story and our song. It's time to also take the covenant calling that we have received and embraced and taken into our bosoms and into our hearts and begin to try to find out what it means. Take that covenant calling from its initial micro level of individual hearts and minds and individual families and take it outward to its intended macro level that includes every tongue and nation and tribe on the face of the earth, that offers this great plan, this great redemption and restoration strategy to the entire world and all its people. Well, that's our calling. And the name of the Parsha, as we've discussed, is Bo. That's, of course, a Hebrew word coming from the initial sentence of the Parsha. And the word Bo in Hebrew is translated sometimes go, sometimes come. And I would kind of mix those two. And basically, the way I would help you to interpret Bo, at least as it's found in this Parsha, what it means when the Holy One spoke to Moshe and said, Bo, this is Bo al Pharaoh, go to Pharaoh, or come with me to Pharaoh. There you go. I've given you the hint, haven't I? You know, there's a phrase that's used sometimes in some parts of America or some parts of the world where it says, will you come with? And there's no me at the end of it. No, there's a blank. It's will you come with? And that's kind of what Bo is. It's come with. Come with. And then he says, as the first sentence, to Pharaoh we go. It's not an idea of direction we're going. It's not coming or going necessarily. It's a matter of being with. It's a matter of relationship. It's a matter of interaction. It's a matter of communication. It's a matter of co-laboring together. Come with. Bo. Come with. So this is the Parsha of coming with. We will leave Egypt, but we will not leave alone. Well, we will come with, multitudes, of a mixed multitude from all the nations that have also had to come to Egypt because of the great famine centuries ago and were not allowed to leave. We will come with the mixed multitude. We will come with one another, each of our families. We will come with, most of all, the important thing, we will come with the one who called us, the one who has a plan for us, the one who has a place for us, a destination for us, and a destiny for us. We will come with the Creator of the universe, the Holy One. Baruch Hu, blessed be He. So, welcome to Parsha Bo, Parsha coming with the Holy One, to the Holy One's first and prototypical harvest of souls. Yes, this is the prototype of the harvest, the great harvest of the latter days, the great harvest, hopefully, that'll be foretold and foreshadowed and actually manifested to some degree in your day, in your lifetime, in your spheres of influence. This great ongoing harvest of souls, of minds, wills, and of peoples from all the tribes and tongues. Come with. Are you ready for this great adventure of the great prototypical harvest of souls? Well, let's go. It's interesting that he chose the Holy One, that is, chose the term bow, or the verb bow, to describe this. He has previously used the phrase lech, or lechaka, going out. And when he's particularly talking about a direction or a movement away from something, it's mostly about lech. It's a different verb, Hebrew. But this bow word, this bet, vav, and aleph, combo or trifecta, put it together, and it's not about direction of travel. It is about personal growth and maturity. It's about self-actualization, but it's more than that. It's about acknowledging witness. There's someone we're going with. There's someone who is leading and guiding and directing the entire way. It's about acknowledging this witness factor, like Yosef had. I'm going to talk a lot about Yosef, or I'm going to encourage you to think a lot about Yosef. We're not coming out just as sons of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. We're coming out after the model of the Messiah prototype, who is Yosef. We're Yosefians. I hope you feel the Yosefian call upon you to have more than just the going, the lech lekah part, the bowing is what we're seeking for. So this acknowledging the witness of the Creator of the universe and our witness with Him. He is our God. We are His people. And then there comes with that this great covenant calling, this great mission that we're called to do. And so with this mission, with the witness factor, we have this sense of volunteering for assignments and covenant relationship building adventures. And wow, does the Holy One have some of those in mind. I hope you're ready for this. Hope you're ready for a new adventure. Hope you're ready for this, experiencing this witness at a higher level than you ever have. Hope you're ready to tap into your covenant calling and to volunteer for whatever He has in mind for you. Well, we're going to move into then the issue of Yosefian dreamers. Arise, will all you who have the dreams, the visions of the Creator's kingdom coming to earth, on earth as it is in heaven, His will being done on earth as it is in heaven. All you who have the Yosefian dream, will you arise? Will you come forth? Will you come with? Who is ready to break free of the bindings, of the bondages, of the chains of this world, of the cultures and the ethnicities and the ideologies and the political systems and the economic systems of this world? We can't completely ignore them. That's part of our mission. We're going back to them, but we need to be able to come free of them, break the bindings and the bondages of them, and come with Him. We are more with Him than we are of them. Who's ready to do that? Who's ready to break free of the bindings and come with? Who is ready? Asking you, who is ready to put on shalom and joy and loving kindness and forbearance and forgiveness and self-control? Who is willing to put on these marks of distinction of the Yosefian dreamer? Who is willing to take on the nature, the character, and the response to trauma and tragedy, and the response to pure out blatant sin and lying and deception that Yosef had? Oh, we don't need to be people of anger. We're not called to be people of anger, outrage, angst, offense, or vengeance. There's a thirst for bloodlust. We're not here called to be judgmental. There's a season in which we will be given reign to be the wisdom bearers of the earth and the decision makers of the earth. This is not that season. The season when we are here is to put on shalom and put on joy and put on loving kindness, and put on forbearance, and put on forgiveness like Joseph, and forsake the Pharaoh's way, the way of Pharaoh, of the Egyptians, the way of anger, the way of angst, the way of offense, the way of outrage, and the way of vengeance. Are you ready? You Josephian dreamers, are you ready to arise? And alas, unfortunately, some will not be ready. Some, though they may think they want to serve God in some way, will stay behind, trapped in the bindings of the culture and the ethnicity, trapped in mindsets of the ideologies and the political systems and the economic systems, trapped in the fleshly material cravings of the world's ways. Some will be stuck in inertia. Some will cling to what is familiar. Some will choose the chains and choose the perverse ways of the enemy that we know rather than face the experience, the adventure of the God we have yet to come to understand in his fullness. Who's ready to put on shalom, take away anger? See, these are the attributes of Joseph. This is to be the model of what Yeshua, the Messiah, taught. It was the fruit of the Spirit. And Galatians and Shaul wrote about the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace. These are the marks, the distinguishing marks. The pala and the pedut that mark us separately. Who's ready to put those on and take off the garments of anger, angst, offense, outrage, and vengeance? Who's ready to go on to the King that we want and desire and craving, and his mission and his labors and his jobs and his assignments and his will, and change and leave the enemy we know far behind? Well, I have a little subheading that I'd like to use for this particular section, or this particular drash at least. Hope you'll smile with me as I say, Holy Haggadah, Batman. Holy Haggadah, Batman. If you know the Haggadah is the story we read, the book that we read that tells the story of the Exodus on Pesach, Passover. Every Passover celebration, we read the Haggadah. So, Holy Haggadah, Batman, we're at that stage. They're playing our song. This is our story. This is what we tell our children year after year after year. This is what we remind ourselves about the deliverance protocol, about how we came out of Egypt. Not because we were rebelling, not because we were in a revolution, not because we were angry at them, but because we were drawn and we were led out by a strong, mighty hand and an outstretched arm. I encourage you, if you think about the idea of they're playing our song and we're called to arise and we're called to be the Josephians, just read about Song of Songs, the Song of Solomon 2, verse 8 and following. I won't take time in our conversations to read that, but you might want to pause this and go pull out your Tanakhs or your Bibles and read Song of Songs 2:8 and at least the next 4, 5, 6 verses. Kumilach, arise, come up, you, and come up and come away. Come with me. That's what the Holy One says in that, through the voice of Solomon. Well, we are at that stage where we are getting ready for the Holy Haggadah, Batman. These are the words that we tell in the hearing of our son and our son's sons every Passover. And the Holy One actually tells us to do that. In this particular parsha, early on in chapter 10, he tells us, I'm going to do all these things that you will be telling him about, that you may tell in the hearing of your son and your son's son my actions, my deeds, my almost playful things that I did, but yet powerful in Mitzrayim. You see, this story is how we became a people, how we became who we are, how we became distinct from the nations, how we began to be overcomers as opposed to succumbers to the world's ways and thoughts and mindsets and attitudes and moods. This is how we became the people of the living God. This is how we became his people, and he became our God. We became a people that stands apart from and is marked as distinct from the nations. A nation who models the ways of the Holy One to the world, and we have to be different to be able to do that. We have to be vulnerable and is visible for them to do that. And we can't be judgmental and do that. That will not demonstrate the mercies and the grace of our King. So we are a people that stands apart from the nations, a people who models the ways of the Holy One, our God, to the world, and a people who introduces and lives out his grand redemptive plan? Are you living in that fullness? Are you at least heading in that direction? Are you becoming more of a child of the King, more of a Yosephian than you were a year ago? Well, let's keep this progress rolling. This is how we become a people. To understand that we're leaving Mitzrayim does not mean we're reaching the pinnacle. Mitzrayim is the first and lowest level. And when I say Mitzrayim or Egypt, I'm not just talking about that physical geographical nation with boundaries along the northeast coast of Africa, although that's what the storyline contains. Mitzrayim is any situation, every situation in which we find ourselves coming to age, completely immersed in another nation's or another culture's or another ethnicity system. Another way of life, another way of viewing the world, a way of calling creation nature. I mean, what a perversion that would be, to call creation nature, as if it just developed, it just happens, as opposed to being a part of grand design. Mitzrayim is where we all start. It's just the beginning point. So what you see about coming out of Mitzrayim just doesn't mean we're going to be suddenly all perfect and wonderful and at our fullest level of maturity. We're just going to come out of Mitzrayim and begin to grow and begin to shake off our immersion, our subjugation to the ways and the thoughts and the mindsets and the emotion handling processes and the defense mechanisms and the crisis management protocols of the world. We're going to come out of that and come to an overcoming mindset. But we're just getting out of Mitzrayim. That's one of 10 stages of the life cycle of the nation, the great nation of B'nai Israel. Mitzrayim. We're going to come out of that. We're going to go to the second. The second stage is the lesser wilderness. That's the first wilderness, or the lesser wilderness. It's just the early days of our calling, when we're free of Pharaoh. We're not forced to do things the way the Egyptians or the people of bondage, the world's ways. But we're not forced to do that. We have the option, the free choice to do it, but we don't know yet how to tune in to the leadership and the wisdom of the Holy One. So we make mistakes, and we carry some of that anger out with us when we leave Mitzrayim. We carry some of that offense with us. We carry some of that vengeance, lust out with us. We carry some of that angst and worry mindset out with them. We carry some of this arrogance and narcissism out with us. And so we have to have this lesser wilderness to begin to wean us away from those things and draw us closer to the Holy One and His calling to our life. And then at a certain point, He takes us to Sinai, the third stage of the 10-phase life cycle. Mitzrayim, lesser wilderness, then Sinai. And Sinai is the stage where our mission becomes more defined. It begins to congeal. We begin to realize who we really are and who He really is and what we're supposed to be doing on the earth. Our identity and our mission, our purposes begins to be marked and engraved into our spirits. It's part of our DNA, as opposed to just, we're supposed to go back to Israel, we're supposed to go to the promised land. Well, no, we're supposed to do something once we get to the promised land. Very important for the entire world, for the grand plan of redemption for mankind as a species, and for the restoration of all creation to its original intended state of beauty and of fruitfulness and of shalom. Do you want that? I do. So we got Mitzrayim as our first stage. We're going to come out of Mitzrayim. We're going to go into the lesser wilderness, the early days of our calling. We have to start shaking off anger and angst. And then we'll get to Sinai, and we'll have our mission defined and our identity marked. And then He'll send us off into phase 4, stage 4, this 10-phase life cycle of the nation of Israel. And it will be the greater wilderness. This is where our commitment that we made at Sinai will be tested with real life situations, difficult situations that we face, peoples that we face, conditions that we face, circumstances that we face, temptations and tests that we face in the greater wilderness. That's the book of Numbers that you'll get to, and we'll see the greater wilderness. And then, after the book of Numbers, the book of Deuteronomy, we'll see we are brought to Eretz Israel. First time. And this is where we try to do the kingdom of the heavens, bring the kingdom of heaven to earth our way. We try to do it with our attitudes, with our mindsets. And this is what you saw with the great united kingdom and the divided kingdom. Eretz Israel, the fifth phase. But that's not the end of it either. Because you see, the sixth phase is seeing that all fall apart and crumble before our eyes. The sixth phase is Hinam. The reluctance, the resistance to give anybody grace. Instead, we desire to want to judge everybody. To think it was our time to judge, as opposed to our time to learn, and our time to shed kindness and mercy and forgiveness and the wisdom and the light of the Holy One for the world, the calling of the Holy One to the world. We get in the sixth phase of Sinat Hinam, and that results in siege by the foreign nations and captivity to the foreign nations like Babylon. And then we have the seventh phase of the life cycle of Bnei Israel. After the Sinat Hinam leads to siege, and the siege leads to captivity, we have the dispersion. We are sown like seed in the nations. We become a hated minority. We have to hold on for everything we've got. But as we do so, we are like seed, and we are being planted in the soil of the various different nations and countries and continents of the world, and the islands and the hillsides, and wherever we have to be driven or sent, we go like seed, and woe out of this begins to spring up. Begins to spring up when the time comes, and when he sends his wind, when he sends his light, when he sends his awakening call, the seeds will sprout, and the trees will grow, and the crops will grow, and there will be another harvest. This phase 8, stage 8 of the 10-phase life cycle of Bnei Israel will become with an awakening and a disentangling from the ways of the nations to which we've been scattered, and a desire to be somewhere else, somewhere where we can really function the way we're supposed to. And then the 9th phase, after the awakening and the disentangling phase for Bnei Israel's life cycle, comes the return and the making aliyah phase. We go home, we go back, we start the journey, and we start the pilgrimage back, this time not to do the kingdom our way, but to do kingdom his way, to be the model nation without pride and without arrogance and without judgmentalism, with wisdom and with patience and with joy and with hope. And then we have the 10th phase, which was coming to a nation, to a place, to the world near you, the kingdom as it's designed to be. The 10th phase, we become the kingdom of priests and the holy nation, the Am Segillah, where we serve under the Messiah's leadership in his methodology and his ways. Only then we'll be able to do judgment, because only then will we understand you can't judge by emotion. You can't judge by what you see, because your eyes will always focus on the negative. You can't judge by what you hear, because your ears will always listen for the slander and the libel and the scandal. We learn to judge on the basis of wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge. All right, we learned the life phase of leaving Mitzrayim, the life phases of the Bnei Israel. We're just beginning. We're just leaving Israel. We're just leaving Mitzrayim. We're just leaving Egypt. So what is Mitzrayim? What is that? What's this place about? What is this first phase that we all find ourselves in? As a youth, we grow up, and it always seems like we're in Mitzrayim, whether we're physically in that nation at the northeast corner of the continent of Africa. Most of us are not, but we're still in Mitzrayim, because Mitzrayim is a Hebrew word meaning straits or narrow places. Places one encounters that limit your movement, limit your thoughts, limit your speech, limit your ability to be who you were created to be, and thereby bring upon you oppression, compression, constriction, restriction, pressure, stress, and you have to use every ounce of your energy, it seems, just to survive and just to make a little headway in that world, because it's a mirage. All the success of that world, that kind of world, of the secular world, of the nations, of the ethnicities, of the cultures of this world, of the civilizations of this world that come from the earthly sense, all these things are just a mirage. They're just the vision that you have, that there's something out there that you never can achieve. And so the Hebrew meaning of straits, or meaning of Mitzrayim, is that place where you think you're accomplishing something, but you just struggle just to survive and stay in the same place and not fall behind. Use all your skill, all your diligence, all your vigilance, all your energy, just keeping alive and keeping awake. Do you feel that way sometimes? Do you remember when you did feel that way? If you don't now, do you remember when you did feel that way? Do you understand that's how most people in this world feel? Have a little understanding of empathy and compassion for them, because they have not yet come out of Mitzrayim. Oh, I hope we are. Hope we have. I hope we, if not, if we will. So the term of Mitzrayim accurately describes ancient Egypt, because that was a realm of bondage for everybody who went there. Even the Egyptians weren't free. Even Pharaoh. Pharaoh was the subject of the deception of his persona. The Pharaoh persona was that he was a deity. He was part of a pantheon of gods. And he had to live up to that. He had to live in the shadow of that great bondage of being a deity as opposed to an ordinary human being. And he could not serve the Holy One. He could not respond to the Holy One because of that great pressure of the bondage of being Pharaoh, of being this deity persona, the personification or the avatar of Horus, the god of the heavens. Oh, that's what he was. And it was not just him, but all of his people were under this bondage. And all the people who went there, and all the nations. This is a portrayal of all the nations and all the ethnicities and all the cultures of the world, past, present, and future. They're all like this. They are just places of bondage. They bind up everybody in every sense. They bind up everybody at every level. They bind you up physically. They make you work for them. They bind you up mentally. They make you think the way they think, and think you're trapped in a state where you can't come. They bind up you emotionally, where you become an emotional train wreck. You become hypersensitive. You become angry. You become offended. You become vengeful. You become malicious. You become depressed. You become sad. You become hyped. This is the emotional pressure, the emotional stress of Mitzrayim. And then you're bound up in Egypt, in Mitzrayim. These cultures, these ethnicities, these ideologies, they bind you up spiritually. They make you believe you're just a product of your environment, when instead you're not from this earth at all. You're not of this earth at all, or any of its nations, or any of its ethnicities. You're not bound by the things that you think bind you. Instead, you are a creation of the Creator of the universe. You are unbounded in your possibilities. Well, this season of great nation birthing contractions that we have been experiencing since last week, we talked about in Parshat Vayera, the first 7 of the great signs of great nation birthing contractions that the world calls plagues. They've been going on, and now they're going to enter their final critical stages in this Parshat. It's a great redemption symphony playing, and it's building up now in Parshat Bo to a crescendo. In a rage, what's going to happen is, after the 10th of the signs that the world calls plagues, the death of the firstborn, Pharaoh is going to be so angry. He's going to have a fit of rage and sadness and disillusionment that he's going to order us out of Egypt. He wouldn't do it up to this point, but he will now. At long last, we will be free from him and his ilk, at least physically, emotionally, mentally, intellectually. We'll have to process that over the course of the wildernesses to come. We are going to be accompanied out of Egypt and out of Mitzrayim to this new wilderness, this first wilderness experience, by a mixed multitude, people from every tribe, tongue, and nation, every ethnicity. Their skin color, their language, all those things won't matter, because they will all be following, will be withing, doing the going with, coming with the Holy One. And who we're with is more important than what's different about us. Accompanied by this mixed multitude from every nation, tribe, and tongue, they will all, like we, have had enough of Western culture being Egyptian culture, and American culture, and European culture. We've had enough of African culture. We've had enough of Middle Eastern culture. We've had enough of Asian culture. We've had enough of all nations and ethnicities' cultures. Anything made from man stinks to high heaven to us now, because we've seen each one we thought was going to be the hope, and none of them ever were. It was just a mirage. It was just a bondage, another trapping, another layer of darkness. So we have had all the culture and all the ethnicity and all the nationality and all the separation that we can stomach. Oh, the mixed multitude, and we will all bow. We will all come with. We're going to embark on the greatest adventure of human history. That's what awaits us. But first, there's some locusts coming our way. There's 3 days of darkness coming our way. There is the death of the firstborn. You see, the Holy One's going to do what it takes to make both Pharaoh and the Egyptian people loosen their death grip and chokehold on us and our family. Let me repeat that. The Holy One will do what it takes, not more. He's not in a punishment mode. He is in a freedom mode. So he will do what it takes and nothing else to make both Pharaoh and the Egyptian people loosen their death grip and chokehold on you and on your family and on your progeny. Well, he will do what it takes and nothing more to make you and your family let go of your Mitzrayim connection. You see, we have Stockholm Syndrome. That means that whenever you get captive, you tend to take on the feelings, the emotions, and affinity for your captors. What will it take? The Holy One knows what it's going to take. Not just to let Pharaoh and the Egyptian people loosen their grip on us, but to make us loosen our hold on them. To loosen, to separate from them, to disentangle from our Mitzrayim connection. And he's going to do, the creator of the universe is going to do in this parsha what it takes. Nothing more severe than that. For others, for people of other ethnicities and cultures who are not even descended from Abraham, our father, to want to do the same thing, to leave Egypt, to leave Mitzrayim and expand out, to go out, to come with on this great adventure. Well, let's do our call to worship, and then we'll talk a little about the specific language of this parsha. If you're listening in and you know this in the Hebrew, you can sing it with me. If not, just listen and enjoy. Let this speak to your spirit and awaken your spirit, whether your mind even understands it or whether it doesn't. Here's how it goes. This is the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen, yes. So it be it. Let it be. Open our eyes now, O Holy One, that we may see the wondrous things that are in your Torah. For we are but strangers in this earth, so do not hide your commandments from us. The closing words of last week's Parsha, the last section of the Torah we read, Parsha Va'era it was called. The last section, the last closing words of it were, when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder, the last of the seventh plagues, of the first seven plagues, was completed, he made a harvest of his transgressions. And he and his servants, not just him, but also his servants, put great weight. They hardened their heart. They put great weight on their heart. They made it seem more important with their will and their desires than they were. And then with that strengthening of their heart, Pharaoh would not send out Israel, as the Holy One had said through Moshe. That was Exodus 9, 34 through 35. Now we step into this week's Parsha. This is the prologue of the Parsha. This is the Holy One briefing Moshe and Aaron on the final stages that he had intended, what was necessary, what was required to make all these things happen of the great nation birthing campaign. Chapter 10 of Exodus, and verses 1 through 3. I'll read it in Hebrew, and then I'll follow with an English translation, or somewhat of an English translation as best I can. Va'omer Adonai el Moshe bo et Paro. And the Holy One spoke to Moshe and said, come with to Pharaoh. Ki ani hikbadeti et libo ve'et la lev avadav. And I have made his heart, meaning Pharaoh, and the hearts of his servants, meaning Pharaoh's servants, heavy with glory. L'ma'an shiti otatai ele bekirbo, and in order that I may demonstrate my signs and wonders before him. U'l'ma'an te asper ve'ozne vincha uven bincha, and in order that you may tell in the ears, speak in the ears of your son and of your son's son, et asher hit alalti b'mitzrayim, the mighty things that I have done in Egypt. Va'et ototi asher samti ban, and my signs which I have done and set among them. V'yadatem ki ani Adonai, that you, all of you, will know, yada, that I am the Holy One. Ve'yavo Moshe va'aron el Pharaoh. Ve'yomru elayu. So Moshe and Aaron went to Pharaoh. They went with the Holy One to Pharaoh, and they said to him, Ko Amar Adonai Elohei HaIvrim, the Holy One, the God of the Hebrews, says this. Ad matai ma'aneta la'anot peni panei. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Shalachami, send out my people. Ve'a'av doneh, that they may serve me. Ki ima'en ata l'shalach et ami. And if you refuse to send out my people, hineni, behold, me bimachar arbe bevluch leka. Behold, tomorrow I will bring the locust, into your territory. Well, that's how this all starts. This parsha begins with a change in mood. Before this, Moshe and Aaron have gone and they've told, matter-of-factly, Shalach edemi, let my people go, send my people out. And they have told matter-of-factly, without any real emotion or commentary to it, without any real instigation of anger to Aaron, to Pharaoh, or any insinuation about him. They have just said the fact, man, to this point. But this changes everything. At this point, the Holy One is driving the point home. So he thinks things like, how long will you do this? Send my people out, or else, basically. And now he begins to speak very matter-of-factly, with more than just fact, with a little bit of passion to it, to awaken in Pharaoh. Now he knows that what's going to be the response. He knows that Pharaoh will not respond to this new approach. And he'll respond all right. He's going to respond favorably. So this is what's called the hardening of the heart. And we think of this as being some kind of denial of Pharaoh's free will. It's no more that than anything else, because the free will is always subject to coercion, to temptation. We always make decisions based upon any number of factors. Well, that's what Pharaoh is going to do. He's going to make his decision. He's going to keep freedom of choice. He's just going to have something to play off of, which he's going to react negatively to the strong words of the Holy One through Moshe and Aaron. And so Moshe goes on. He says, this is what's going to happen if you don't. The or else is this. I will send the locust, and the locust will cover the face of the earth, so much that no one will be able to see the earth, the ground. There'll be so many locusts that all they'll see will be locusts. These locusts will eat the residue of whatever is left after all the other plagues, that which remains after the hail. And then they will eat every tree, not just the grains, which was the wheat and the spelt that was left, but also they'll turn their attention to the trees, the pomegranates, the figs, the olives, and the vines. All these will be eaten, and there will be no food source left. All that grows up out of the field for you. And they will also, not just that, will take away your food supply. The locust will fill your houses. It will invade your houses and become part of your daily moment by moment life. Wow, he's getting serious now. This is the most invasive step that he's taken to get us out. He knows what it's going to take to get us out of Egypt, to let Pharaoh and his people turn loose of their grip on us, and to cause us to want something more, and the nations to want something more, to cause the great multitude, a mixed multitude, to come with us. All these things are things he's working on, and we didn't understand it. And so we have the plague, the divine surgical strike of Arbe, the locust. And of course, we say the locust as if it was just one, but it's billions. It's the greatest, the most severe locust infestation ever, with these particular forms of locusts that will never be seen again. Even the book of Joel, of Yoel, the prophet, he talks about a locust invasion. It will be a different kind of locust. He'll describe the kinds of locusts that will invade. Well, so that plague will come first, and then the plague of Chosek, 3 days of primeval darkness. The Holy One knows exactly what it's going to take to cause Pharaoh to loosen his grip, to cause the people to want this over with. and therefore to shower us with gold and silver and garments, and will cause the advisors to break away from Pharaoh. Says, don't you understand that Egypt is destroyed? We're collapsing upon our ears here. Do you not understand this? Well, these are the things that he knows has to happen. And he has to make Egypt so destitute from a standpoint of having a hope of a food supply that the nations will say, what have we here? What inheritance do we have here? It's time to follow the children of Israel, Bnei Israel, out of Egypt and start a new life. Go on to whatever, the creator of the universe, whoever he may be, if they don't even know, whatever he has planned for us. And then we have the final, the ultimate climactic sign and wonder, the death of the firstborn, Macha Bechorah, the death of the firstborn of Egypt. Every family of Egypt and every flock and herd of Egypt, the firstborn will die, all simultaneously on the night of the 14th, going into the 15th of Nisan, or Aviv, or the first month of the new year. And speaking of that, that's what's going to happen in chapter 12. We're going to be introduced to this covenant remembrance calendar. There are so many calendars. Everybody can start a year anytime they want to. But the calendar of the covenant remembrances, of the Shabbats, of the festivals. The covenant remembrance calendar starts with Nisan 1, with Aviv 1, as it's called. This first month, the month of the ripening barley. This is to be, for us, the covenant remembrance calendar, through which we calculate all the festivals we're going to learn about later. All the special divine appointments that mark us and set us apart from the rest of the world. And infuse us with Kedusha, holiness, energy from heaven. These things are going to be introduced to us according to a covenant remembrance calendar that begins in 14 days before Passover. And then after we're introduced to this covenant remembrance calendar in chapters 12, verses 1 through 2, we're given the narrative, the great departure. We're given a last look around, a retrospective on the entire Egyptian experience, 430 years to the day we go out after we came in. We're going to then give protocols to follow for future Passovers. We won't follow it to exactly to the letter. We have a lot of differences in why we're going to celebrate, observe, remember, and draw energy from the Passover in years to come once we get to the land, or even before we get to the land, where we have these Passovers, and after we are dispersed among the nations. We'll do our Passovers a little different than they did in that first Passover, and we can see what those details are. The Holy One gives us details about that, and Moshe clarifies and gives some more specific information. And finally, the Parsha ends with some mitzvot about the firstborn, the redemption process, about the Holy One's desire to redeem or have redeemed all the firstborn as examples, as first fruits of all the nations, all the peoples, all the families. So we are back now to the issue of why we are doing this. I want to get to the idea that, first of all, the Holy One knows he has to divide Egyptians where they and make them want to turn loose of us. They have held on to us almost with a pathological obsession. They hate us, they fear us, they use us, they enjoy punishing us, they oppress us, and that brings them some sense of power and superiority over us. What is going to cause them to want to let us go? That the Holy One knows. Locust, darkness, firstborn. These things will happen. What will cause us to awaken says we have nothing here. And the nations around us, the ethnicities, the cultures around us to awaken and say, we want no part of this anymore. There's nothing for us to stay. The illusion has been wiped away. The delusion has been removed. Our eyes are open. We can see there's nothing in Egypt for us. This is not the way we're supposed to live. What will cause us, what will cause the nations to have that? As the people of Egypt let us go. What will cause Pharaoh to overcome his deity complex and the bondages he's under, to say, I can't tolerate this anymore, go out, I order you. What will cause that to happen? What will cause us to put on the distinctions, the distinct markings of the covenant nation of the Holy One? What will cause us to put on the shalom, the joy, the rejoicing, the celebration, the forgiveness, the forbearance, the patience, the kindness, the goodness, the mercies. What will cause us to put on these distinctions? What will cause us to put on the blood on the doorpost? What will cause us to tell our children the stories? What will cause us to do all the things that we are called to do as the covenant nation, to be set apart? And yet, not to be exclusive, an exclusive club, but to be a group who welcomes and inspires other nations. Well, these are the things that we're going to find out over the course of the time. We're going to see that there's a process of letting go, the process of letting go by Pharaoh, and the process of letting go by us, and the process of letting go of the nations is not without its pain and without its bloodshed, but it is something that does take place. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about what this is leading toward. Towards the end of the Parsha, when it describes us going out, 600,000 men plus women and children, then plus the mixed multitude and many flocks and herds and other animals that go out with us. We have this great throng that's going to leave. But who is it exactly that's leaving? What's going to be different about them than just a bunch of refugees from different camps that were abused in different ways in Egypt and now are going out? What makes us one? What are the characteristics of this new nation? Well, I call it the Yosephians. And one of the things that's mentioned toward the end of the Parsha is that the reference to Moshe ordering people to take up the bones of Yosef and carry the bones of Yosef with them as they go. And actually this palanquin of the coffin of Yosef becomes sort of the symbol, the mark that tells us who we are. We are to be the new generation of Yosef. We are to be, and this is why Messiah, Yeshua, is this picture of Yosef reborn, of Yosef reunited with his people. So we are to bear the marks of the Yosephians. Now, we know the marks of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. Hardness of heart, insightful, spiteful rhetoric, paranoias, conspiracies, fears, but yet hatred, ethnic hatred, class hatred, arrogance, narcissism. This is the characteristics. So we have to be the counterculture to that. So the Yosephian culture, as opposed to being hard of heart, insightful, spiteful in their rhetoric, abusive, oppressive, cruel, violent. Instead of all that, we're to be gentle and kind. The Yosephian marks include gentleness, meekness, kindness, peaceful, shalom, calm disposition, understanding, empathy toward other people. You see, there's a mark of distinction, and the Yosephians are called to be the counterculture of the way the world works. Just look at the news. Look at the people that the news in your time and your space puts on all the time, shouting and screaming and marching and abusing and beating and threatening and calling for violence. And look at those, and then you know what you're to be the opposite of. The people of Egypt were consumed with darkness, with death, with the imminence of death and the afterlife and this occultness. And that's their ways. We're supposed to be the counterculture of that. That means we are to radiate light, the energy that causes life to burst forth. We're not compressing and trying to use and manipulate life. We're causing it to burst forth and be fruitful and multiply. This is a Yosephian characteristic, radiating light, bringing forth the energy of photosynthesis into every realm we touch. The third thing has to do with the Yosephian personality is about freedom from deception and the tyranny of fleshly desires and appetites. Freedom from the tyranny of fear and sentimentality. The freedom from bondage of ethnic, cultural, and institutional biases and their class-based and ethnic-based propagandas. Freedom from all that, because that's what the Egyptians were all about. But we are called to be Yosephians, the people of the covenant, the people who has overcome and is overcoming and is showing the way for others to overcome these things as well. The fourth thing that marks off the Yosephians is that we're to be voluntary, willing, and joyful servants of all, as opposed to slaves of and enslavers of other peoples. The Egyptians were always demanding more, always taking, always trying to control, manipulate, always trying to force, to use, to abuse, to have that mindset that we have the right to do to other people. As a matter of fact, we're going to do unto them before they do unto us. That process of the Egyptian mindset, we're the counterbalance. We're to be voluntary, willing, and joyful servants of all, but never adopting a victim mentality, never adopting an entitlement mentality, always understanding we don't do this because we're better than other people. We do this because this is the calling of our King, and it's why we're created. And finally, the mark of the Yosephian is to remember what it's like to be a stranger, to remember what it's like to be oppressed, to remember what it's like to be marginalized, to be hated, to be mocked, to remember what it's like to be a slave, to remember what it's like to be considered an outsider, to remember what that's like. Because you see, the Egyptian way is to always feel entitled and privileged and superior, and not to remember, not to care what other people think or feel what other people feel or understand what other people are going through. Do you bear the marks of the Yosephians? Who will embrace these marks of Yosef? This special set of national marks of distinction. Who will bear it? Who's ready for it? Who hungers for these marks to be placed on them? These marks that the Holy One has designed to set us apart from all the other peoples of the earth, all for the sake of His grand redemptive and restorative plan. Well, that's what I'll leave you with today. This out of Egypt, leaving Mitzrayim, but what comes next? Who will we become in the wilderness? What will we leave behind, and how long will it take us to break free of the mindsets and the worldviews and the traumatized emotions and the sense of vengeance, hunger, and offense that we bear? How will it take? What is it going to take for us to be set free from those things, to be who we were created to be? How long will it take us to get to Sinai? How long will it take us before we really truly understand our calling and our mission? Until we truly understand the purpose for which the Holy One, the Creator of the universe, is doing all this in us and in the world. How much do we surrender voluntarily to His will? And let it be where His will is done on earth as is in heaven, and His kingdom comes. Not according to our will or our ways or for our benefit, but for the benefit of the entire world and the creation as He made it. Well, it's time for me to leave you. Go next door, visit a little while with my friends at the Biblical Lifestyle Center. Thank you for joining in, and let me be part of your Shabbat, your Sabbath day. May you be blessed in all your things, all your days, in your families, in your households. May you be awakened. May that spirit, the breath, the wind of the Sabbath, the wind of the revelation of Torah, awaken in you the Yosephian attributes that were born, deposited into your DNA. And if you could, drop me a line, let me know who you are, where you're listening from, and anything you would like to say. Prayer requests, praise reports, comments, questions. Until next time, beloved, Shabbat Shalom.